So I wasn't going to show the churning of the lower half because this is just a traditional churn here. But I do have another tool that I like to use a lot. And this is what they call the Magic Skew. This is what it looks like. It's very similar to the tool you saw me using for the top half. This is made by tshadow.com. And they have a whole series of tools that you could purchase that are like this. They make them with longer handles, shorter handles like the one I have here. I prefer the shorter handle because I feel like I can I'm closer to the piece that I'm cutting and I have a better feel. But what separates this from the easy wood tools is you notice the rest is beveled here at this angle. And instead of cutting straight, or scraping straight, you should say, this actually is more of a cut, and you move through the tool or the piece at an angle like this, always with the top of the cutter pointing in the direction you want to cut in. If you pull this back, you're going to have a catch and bad things are going to happen. So for me, because I don't have the world's greatest memory, I generally just keep sweeping in one direction so that I don't have to remember to do this. And we'll see if I don't forget to do that since I just finished using a tool where I go back and forth like this. But this is more of a cutting tool. It's going to take more of a cutting edge on the product as opposed to just scraping it off. I do tend to use this more on the acrylics. I haven't used it much on the acrylesters only because I mostly churn Alumilite these days. But we'll see how this works on this, and hopefully we don't have any problems. So let's get churning. So we've got this round, and you'll notice we have no chip out. The other thing that you probably notice with the Easy Wood tools, the T-Shadow Magic Skew, much different ribbons coming off of this. So it's cutting in a very different manner. And for some reason it was hanging up down here, if you noticed. Now that changed once I went the opposite direction. So good cutting tool. It's doing its job. Let's finish this up. Alright, so I've got the profile that I really would like to have. This is going to be my pen tip or my nib, and this is going to be the part that connects to the upper. As you notice towards the end there, I started to get a little chip out, and I think there's two things going on here. One, I'm a little high now that I've taken off so much material. Cutting tool's a little high, and it's likely that my tip here needs to be rotated a little bit. It's getting a little dull. These acrylester blanks are so hard. They can be very hard on your tools. So I'm going to pause so that I don't ruin this, and I'm going to do some shaping just like we did on the top with the 80 grit emery paper, and get this guy finished out. Tool rest out of the way, put my tool away, or throw it on the floor. Okay, let's get this sanded. So something I want to point out here, you'll notice in the sanding process, I have parts here that are not getting touched by the sandpaper. Those are low points, and I want to continue to sand back and forth until those low points are all gone and have a nice smooth finish here. I'm also looking to pull my ends here a little closer to the bushings so that I have a nice clean looking fit on my pen kit. I think we've got a decent profile here, close to the bushing on the top. I need a little more work down here for the bushing. So finish this off, and then we'll go through the rest of our grits in the dry sanding. So we'll move to our wet sanding process now, same as the top. One of the things you probably noticed me doing when I was doing the dry sanding is kind of wiping between grits. I feel like I take some of the dust that's on there off, so I'm not really burnishing my plastic and generating more heat. I'm also feeling the blank's temperature. If it's too hot for me to touch, it's too hot to keep going. And so I'll take a pause if that ever happens and let it cool off a little bit so that I don't get it to the temperature, the heat level where it is going to fracture and have a bad outcome. All right, so we're going to slow this down a little bit here. We're going to do our wet sanding. Actually, I'm sorry, we're going to speed it up a little bit and get our wet sanding done and finish this up. Alright, so we have this gorgeous finished pen tip here for the Concava kit. One of the things you might have noticed in the process is after I initially polished off or rubbed off the polish, sped the lathe up and increased my movements here. I feel like it gives me a good final finish on here. It helps me get the material nice and clean. A little bit of heat does a good thing with the polish. So there we go. So we're going to take this part off. We're going to move over to our assembly table and put this pen together.